Hello and welcome to the Martial Arts Show. My name's Andrew McKay and I've got a very special guest joining me today, Master Michael Muleta from the International Taekwondo Federation. Michael, can you tell us a little bit about what Taekwondo is and where it comes from?
Well, Taekwondo in general, obviously it originated from Korea and has its basis or its origins through Japanese martial arts, obviously with the Japanese occupying Korea through the middle part of the last century before. And once Korea was liberated from Japan, there was a desire to create a distinctly Korean brand of martial arts with, like I said, its origins from karate, which explains a lot of the early similarities, but then, over time it's developed into what you see today. And then, a couple of different diverging aspects of Taekwondo with the onset of the Olympics a few years ago and continued development of the original type of Taekwondo, if you like.
So when about did Taekwondo come in its most common form? About what year time frame?
Well, it was officially named in 1955.
Okay.
So prior to 1955, there was nothing called Taekwondo. A lot of the movements were being performed, in other martial arts. But as Taekwondo, 1955, and originally it was a military martial art where very few civilians did it. It was mostly soldiers on army bases and so on. And a lot of Korean instructors were sent out to various military bases around the world to train other troops of other countries.
Yeah.
The demo team had gone around demonstrating for the governments of other countries and militaries. And then with the popularization of the martial art, I think a lot of it had to do with the Americans stationed in Korea during the 50s. They brought the martial art back to America as well, and that helped with the popularization of it to the general public.
Yes, yeah.
And then it grew as more of a general martial art for the public. And I think, again, initially it was a very hard martial art, very, very. It wasn't suited to children.
Yeah. Okay.
But, one thing we've seen over the last 20 years or 30 years or so is more and more children doing martial arts, or doing Taekwondo, I should say. And even to the point nowadays where the major market is predominantly children.
Yeah.
So it's kind of come a full circle, if you like, from what its origins were, which was a military-based self-defense.
Okay. Now, on yourself, I've got a couple of figures here, so let me know if I'm incorrect in any of these, but 8th degree black belt,
Sure.
international umpire. Are you still the Undersecretary of the Undersecretary General of the ITF?
Yeah, until I get sacked, I am.
Yeah, fair enough. Founding President of the United ITF Taekwondo Australia.
Yep.
30 years experience, or you're a bit over that now? So about 30 years experience, or a bit more?
Sorry, say that again.
You're right. So how long have you been doing it for? 30 years?
Oh, about 34 years.
About 34. Okay.
Yeah.
You're only about 35 years old, though, aren't you?
I don't remember 35 years old.
So would it be fair to say that it is like your full-time job? You're travelling all over the world, running seminars and workshops. Does that consume most of your time?
My time?
Yeah, does that consume most of your time?
Yeah, well, it's ironic because it's not actually my job. I don't actually derive an income from Taekwondo.
Yeah.
And I don't do it as a full-time job. However, obviously I do travel a lot and I do teach a lot. So when I teach a class, of course,
yeah,
there is a fee attached to classes, but there's pretty much on a case-by-case basis, where I go, where the demand is, where the requests come from, and so forth. It's a balance between servicing, the places I want to service, and also the places that need some servicing. And obviously my role in the national body, as well as being president, is I'm the technical director. which does require me to go around and teaching domestically a lot.
Yes.
But I guess I'm fortunate, because I've had a lot of international involvement as a competitor, then a coach, then an umpire. That I do have a lot of networks in other countries that they do ask me to come out and teach, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great. Now in 2018, you're inducted into the Australian ITF Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
2018.
The Hall of Fame. You're inducted in the Hall of Fame 2018?
2018, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, at what age did you start Taekwondo? How old were you?
Well, I started Taekwondo at 17 when I had started my university to be a physical education teacher.
Okay.
Prior to that, I'd been playing competitive sports since I was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Played cricket, played football, played a few other sports. There's 4 different sports I played at state level.
Oh, really?
But Taekwondo, I sort of fell into it by accident. I wasn't specifically looking for Taekwondo. I was just looking for something to do. And I relocated, 120 kilometres from my home to go to university.
Mm-hmm.
And being 17, I didn't have a license to get back home every weekend. So I was looking for something. I had been doing boxing for a couple of years before. So initially I actually went to boxing.
Oh, really?
And the club I went to wasn't oriented towards the sport or the style itself. There was, a few guys that could throw heavy punches that liked to get together and hit the bag and hit each other, which didn't really suit me. I was looking for something more on the competitive sporting side, to be taught how to do it properly and then, maybe compete. So when I wasn't sort of getting that from where I was with boxing, because it was predominantly nightclub bouncers who were just, keeping their skills sharp, for the weekend work that they did. I was looking up at the college notice board and was actually looking at a karate flyer. And somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, you should talk to this fellow in our class. He's some sort of martial arts teacher. And he does something. I'm not sure what it is." And anyway, so I did, and it turned out to be Taekwondo. Yeah, so
yeah, cool.
The rest is history.
Yeah, fair enough. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the man who founded Taekwondo, General Choi. Can you tell us a bit about him?
Well, sure. He was obviously one of the leaders of the military around the time that Korea was liberated from Japan. So he established some of the early schools to conduct training for the troops. And at the time, as a 2-star general, at the time of the liberation, he was much revered as a leader, and used that position to continue to propagate his art, and then spread it to international countries. So with the christening of Taekwondo in 1955, there was the further development and promotion of Taekwondo around the world through military channels. And then in 1966, he decided it was time to create an international federation, which was formed in Seoul, Korea, contrary to what a lot of people believe. He was the founding president of the International Taekwondo Federation, having previously been the president of the Korean Taekwondo Association, because there were no other organisations outside of Korea. So he formed the first international body. And then a few years later on, he shifted that body, the administrative part of the body, to Canada, as he moved to Canada himself. And then other bodies formed after it. Obviously, Korea was keen to have their national sport with its administration in Korea, so they formed the World Taekwondo Federation 6 or 7 years later on. So, but General Choi then spent the next 30 years of his life pretty much teaching all around the world, updating techniques and spreading Taekwondo, developing schools, instructors, and so on. So he was very busy. All the time that I was fortunate enough to have contact with him, and I was able to train with him on about 8 occasions. And I was very fortunate to live in an era where we had access to him. So
I remember reading about his last visit to Australia, and myself, doing Taekwondo as a young fella. I really wanted to go, but it just a bit too far, a bit too hard at the time. But I'm kicking myself I never got to meet the man, because I hear nothing but great stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we were fortunate during the 1990s, which in the decade prior to his passing, that he really increased the number of times he came to Australia. Like, he came every 2 to 3 years on average there for a period. So in Australia, we're actually quite lucky during that 7 or 8 year period that he came out quite frequently.
Yes.
Because prior to that, there was limited contact with him because he was delegating those tasks to others. But then he took over the role himself again in the 90s, and was very, very active, constantly travelled the world all year. Like, he didn't sit still. He was a workaholic, and you could see the passion when he taught. Like, it was his whole life's work. You could see that come out in the way he taught. He was just tireless and completely consumed with Taekwondo.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's change our focus now, and looking at your shirt, you're organizer of the Arnold's Sports Festival. Is that correct?
Well, at the moment, I run the Taekwondo component of the Arnold Sports Festival. Originally, I was through my business, Global Fitness Institute. I was one of the major sponsors of the Arnold Sports Festival, which previously was FitX, or was previously also known as the Arnold Classic. And then it sort of grew from being predominantly what was a bodybuilding show, when it was first formed over 30 years ago in Ohio, USA. And it was introduced to Australia 6 years ago as the Arnold Classic, and then it became more and more of a multi-sport festival. So the name was changed to Arnold Sports Festival. So again, like I said, originally from those first days, I was a major sponsor through my fitness college. And then, obviously with my martial arts background, they asked me would I be interested in coordinating the martial arts. So I came in as a martial arts coordinator, coordinating all the martial arts, with kickboxing, boxing, MMA, karate, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, so pretty much coordinated them all. And then I was keen to grow the taekwondo aspect a little bit more. So, we had some things in place that pretty much ran themselves. So there wasn't a real need to have an overall coordinator, just a central point of contact. So then I could focus on Taekwondo. So we've grown Taekwondo from, I think, the first time I had it was 30 competitors to this year. Prior to the coronavirus, we had 480 signed up.
Yeah, wow.
So that's in a 3 year period. We sort of grew from, I don't know how many 1,000% that is. So, we're pretty proud of the way we've been able to grow it. And obviously the support has come from far and wide, because I went in with quite a unique approach and different approach as far as event management is concerned, and took a machete to the politics and cut down all the politics to open it up to everybody who wanted to come. And that was one of the mandates I set out from day one. If I was going to be involved, it had to be a standalone, completely non-political event. I mean, I could easily have run it as an ITF event. But I decided for the Taekwondo community that's not the way to go, and also the ethos of the festival is to promote participation in sport, not to promote participation in sport only to those affiliated to a particular group. And I took the same approach with the Australian Masters Games as well, and we've had success in both of those areas. So.
Yeah, wow. I was quite impressed when you invited me to help out a couple of years ago. Mightn't have been too much help myself, but I was very impressed to see all the different sports, right from chess, right through to powerlifting, and a real wide range of martial arts, fencing, and jiu-jitsu and so on and so forth. So it was really more than I expected. And do you find that is a challenge when promoting the event, that people still think it's all about bodybuilding?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people go there with preconceptions, and people don't come because of preconceptions. I don't really like to use the word politics, even though I just did. It's not always politics. It's just people's preconceptions or things they've got ingrained into their head about where they should or shouldn't go, or or people telling them where they should or shouldn't go, and them allowing themselves to be told where they can and can't go.
Yes.
It's quite bizarre given the country we live in,
yeah.
that people allow that to happen.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's there for those who want it. It's completely optional. I mean, and there's always people who just choose not to go because they don't want to, which is perfectly fine.
Yes.
But the challenge for us as organisers is to create an event which is so appealing, so attracting, so well run that people would want to be there.
Yeah.
And when they do come, they have such a positive experience that they'll want to come back. And that's the challenge for every event organiser in anything they do, whether it's sport or otherwise, is to actually create quality events that people say, you know what, we're going to put that on our calendar first, and then everything else around that. But certainly one of the big appeals of the Arnold Classic is you don't need to be affiliated to anybody in particular to come. It's not a recruitment drive. There's no catches, there's no hooks. It's not like we get you in the door and then we've got you for life. It's purely the pressure is on us to provide a positive experience for you, and we back ourselves to do that. So far so good, and the increase of support each year shows that we're clearly doing something right.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So with everything going on in relation to coronavirus, did that affect your event this year?
This year's event, yeah, well, it was affected in a big way.
Yeah.
I guess I had a bit of a preview to what was possibly going to happen because I was in the USA for the Arnold Classic a couple of weeks earlier, and that was affected with 2 days' notice. The government stepped in and banned the expo, if you like, because as a public gathering, the USA one attracts 200,000 people over the weekend. So however, in the USA, because it was very early days of the coronavirus, the sports went ahead with no spectators. So we sort of thought there was something big was going to happen, but at that stage it was virtually non-existent in Australia. So it became a race against the clock, and in the days leading up to the event, obviously things changed on a daily basis, and every new restriction that was put in place or new guideline that was put in place had an effect. So eventually we got to the point 1 week before the competition where all international visitors were going to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Obviously that became a massive problem for World Championships because at that stage we didn't really want to go ahead with the World Championships with all Australians only. Had it just been a normal Arnold Classic Taekwondo, we would have, but of course after that there were further developments which made that difficult as well. So it was a massive impact on our event, which obviously we ended up postponing the World Championships.
Okay.
Like I said, it's through no fault of anybody, no fault of the organisers or anything else. It's a global phenomenon that nobody could have anticipated months before, and because it only impacted us very, very close to the event, it's very difficult to put other things in place. So it impacted a lot of people. Obviously, fortunately, with a week's notice, people were able to get credits on their airfare and didn't have to make the trip. So that was a good thing. They got most people got refunds on their hotels, so that was a good thing. For us as organisers, obviously, there's a lot of expenses we had that we can't recoup.
Yeah.
But then there are others that we just carry over to the next event.
Yeah.
But the big picture is there are people dying.
Yeah.
So, loss of money and inconvenience of rescheduling an event is nothing compared to loss of life. So we need to keep that in perspective.
Yes, of course.
It's not anybody, particular person's fault. The whole world is going through the same thing. And if people approach it with that mindset, that we just pick up the ball when it's safe to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Staying on the topic, and I don't want to talk Corona too much because everyone's getting sick of it, but what are you doing with your various martial arts schools and instructors? Are you doing any sort of online training?
Well, most of our schools are doing some form of online training, whether it's live classes, whether it's video tutorials with small groups or one-on-one. We're setting up some things ourselves, but most of our branch schools are doing that with their own students. Yeah, so and obviously with I'm on the video talking to you now.
Yeah.
We've obviously restricted all our face-to-face contact stuff.
Yeah.
At the moment, and until it's safe to carry on with that.
Okay. Now I just want to bring our focus back to Taekwondo and some questions people have often asked me in my time, and I'm sure you've heard this over and over again. I've got a few things here I'm going to show you and show our audience, and I'll get you just to talk about a little bit. So first of all, is the uniforms. So this is my last ITF uniform.
Sure.
Now, to the average participant, it all just looks like white pajamas, I'm sure. But there's some distinct differences here with the ITF, especially like the patch in the middle and the way that it sort of comes into a line into the centre as well. So why did the ITF go down that way, and maybe can you also talk about what the black striping's all about?
Well, the uniform's obviously changed a little bit since early days. It was just a crossover uniform with a shoestring tie at the waist, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as the karate guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, very similar, yeah. And, the shorts, pants that came halfway down your shin, and very much because of the karate origins, and then it became more and more developed to differentiate between karate and taekwondo, and partially was in the uniform.
Yes.
And then, of course, with the formation of another world body, they went with a V-neck uniform. So the ITF went with basically a Velcro or a zip join in the middle, rather than the crossover flaps. So that, in terms of uniform design, I see the WT guys are changing their uniform again for competition, which is interesting. So the uniform is that's one aspect. In regards to the striping and the emblems on the uniform, obviously the predominant emblem is the International Federation, the world body that you're with, and generally the other one is either your school or your national body, depending on who you're with. Some places might have a national body on the other chest and maybe a school on the arm, or vice versa. And then on the back you've got what is commonly referred to as the Taekwondo tree, as it's kind of shaped like a tree, which again was introduced by the ITF way back in early days. The striping around the uniform, the trim on the uniform, because Taekwondo comes from military origins, it's just to distinguish between ranks. So not dissimilar to a uniform in the military, would have certain stripes on the uniform to distinguish between rank. So the trimming around the bottom of the jacket is first, second and third degree. Fourth degree and above get the stripes down the side of the arms and the side of the legs as well. And then of course your belt itself has the rank on the belt. So and that again, that's more to do with its military origins, and also to distinguish or differentiate people in any given class or any given group, where the seniority lies as far as rank is concerned.
Yeah. So talking belts, I blew the cobwebs off mine here, and I suppose mine's a bit of a hybrid of traditional Taekwondo and slightly more modern. And people at home might note the stripes, commonly referred to as dans or degrees, but the ITF of recent years has gone slightly different, haven't they? Can you tell us what they're doing and why?
In regards to the belt?
In regards to the ranking and the use of the Roman numerals.
Yeah, well, I mean, early days there was just stripes, and it's the transition to the Roman numerals probably in the last couple of decades. General Choi just felt it was easier rather than having to count how many stripes on the belt. Because once you get so many stripes on the belt, it's difficult to see with the naked eye just how many stripes there are. You've kind of got to go and count them individually. Whereas with a Roman numeral, it's quite easy to see. I mean, quite easily could have just used the conventional number like we use in everyday life, but he went with the Roman numeral. And,
I think the Roman numeral also suggests it's neutral, it's global. It doesn't belong to one culture or the other. Excellent.
It takes up less room on the belt. I mean, once you've got enough stripes, it takes up half your belt.
Yeah, I've trained with a lot of karate clubs, and you get the senior ranks come in, and you're trying to count it down. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is confusing.
The stripe, it can go halfway up their belt.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got no room for anything else. Whereas the Roman numeral, regardless of the rank, takes up the same amount of space.
Yes. Okay.
So it's easier to be quite uniform in terms of what else is included on the belt.
Yeah. Can you tell me, the karate guys are similar to Taekwondo, that through the coloured belt system, any striping appears on the left?
Sure.
In karate, they suggest that when you achieve black belt, you actually put the stripe on the right side.
Right.
Is that something that Taekwondo does as well, or does it stay on the left?
Most Taekwondo put the stripes on both sides, from what I've observed over the years, rather than one side of the belt.
Okay.
And there's been, and even diagrammatically through the Taekwondo encyclopedia or condensed encyclopedia, depending on the version you've got, which shows some guidelines for belt piping and so on, it always appears on both sides of the belt.
Okay.
So, but like I said, there's no hard and fast rule as such. I mean, people who diverge from, I guess, the original organisation, anytime anybody starts something which is based on but separate from, they always try to add a little bit of their own flavour to it. So that's often the uniform design, the uniform colour, the belt, the ranking system, and over time, the longer time passes, the more and more modifications you get, and 2 or 3 years or 2 or 3 decades down the track, you may end up with something which is not all that similar to the original one.
Yeah.
And that's neither good nor bad, as long as the quality of what you do is still there.
Yes.
Some people, I've seen some people go away and do their own thing. They call their own thing, which is not really their own thing. They tend to just chop out the things that they're not very good at or don't believe have a lot of purpose.
Yes.
Because maybe they don't understand the purpose or never got taught it properly, and they tend to condense it to what they want. Or they may have learned other things outside of Taekwondo, and they throw those into the mix.
Yes.
Under the guise of being more comprehensive. But there's many thousand Taekwondo techniques. If you're familiar with and competent with most of them, there shouldn't be too much need to throw too much extra stuff in there.
That is a
criticism of other martial arts. There's lots of great martial arts out there. Martial arts is only as good as the martial artist, though.
Yeah. I've noticed in my last few years of consistent training the influence of MMA in mainstream martial arts. I'll leave my personal opinions out, but have you gone down that path of integrating more MMA into your curriculum?
Not in my curriculum, no, because a lot of the stuff they do we were already teaching. So there was no need for us to refer to it as MMA. That in the early days was more of a marketing thing, we teach a little bit of everything. It's like a pizza with a lot, But a lot of that stuff, we were already doing sweeps and throws and takedowns and some groundwork and stuff like that anyway. Which is effectively what MMA is. To distinguish between a comprehensive single martial art and a martial art which only focuses on a particular aspect. Let's say boxing, for example. A lot of people say, well, boxing is limited because you can't kick. Well, of course you can't kick because it's boxing. You're not meant to kick.
Yes.
So it's silly to criticise a sport unless you understand the purpose of the sport. So martial arts, some people who say only focus on tournament sparring, for example, and there are people who do that, which is fine if that's what they want to do, but then they're missing out on all the other things that are in the martial art that they don't teach because they want to specialise on one area. So then, of course, because you're specialising on one area, you're lacking in other areas. So that opens up the door for other martial arts to come in and say, we do this, this, and this, and this, and you don't do any of that. And then for some people that looks more appealing. Whereas if you're teaching the full curriculum of Taekwondo, you don't really need much else, if anything. But I mean, you could say the same for a lot of other martial arts as well. Because they've all had a similar experience. And I think some of that has been brought about by the popularisation of the sport aspect. Because if I'm training for the 100-metre butterfly, I don't waste all my time doing 100-metre breaststroke.
Yeah, good point.
You know what I mean?
Good point. Yeah.
So, you know, and